Anna Rathmann is the director of the Great Plains Foundation. She spoke about well-being, wildlife, and tourism in the face of COVID-19 at the Happiness Roundtable 2020.
I'm the director of the Great Plains Conservation Foundation. We work in southern and eastern Africa, specifically in Kenya, Zimbabwe, and Botswana. We conserve large landscapes, and we do this through a hybrid business model that incorporates tourism and conservation activities. Part and parcel to all of that work is supporting and working with local communities who live in and around these conserved areas. So as the COVID-19 pandemic really came into focus and started to take hold globally, tourism, especially international tourism, slowed down and eventually halted as social distancing regulations took place and borders were closed. The associated revenues as a result of this also came to a standstill. Now, throughout the world, as we all know, but I'll speak specifically about Africa in this context, tourism activities fund and facilitate a great deal of the conservation efforts. It does this through a variety of means, profit sharing, direct contributions, in-kind support through infrastructures and staffing, and then just by default, the very presence of having a tourism operation and travelers in an area serves as more eyes for wildlife monitoring and deterrence for wildlife crime and anti-poaching presence. But tourism is a major, major economic driver, both regionally within Africa and locally within Africa. And so it accounts for significant percentages of the GDP of many of these African nations. So it cannot be understated the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic on the economic disruption that it has caused in these areas. That's the current reality, but I think the benefit of a group like this is the ability to look beyond that reality and to envision a brighter future, a future where tourism and conservation and community well-being is mutually supportive of one another. The localized approaches strengthening community well-being, further investments in community-driven initiatives, conceptualized and driven initiatives. Also, diversification of the economic drivers. So recognizing that sole source revenues are always going to be inherently vulnerable to disruptions and to industry setbacks. This COVID pandemic is showing that with the tourism industry, but the more that there can be a diversification of those economic revenue sources, the better, and it really can bolster you against future disruptions. And then looking at localized approaches to community well-being, how can the international and national policymaking support that efforts? Better connectivity between the local communities, the context that we had talked about earlier, and some of the large institutional funders. We need to acknowledge that communities understand their challenges and their roadblocks better than anyone else, and they are in a position to be able to conceptualize and bring together solutions in a way that no one else can. So supporting those efforts where we can bridge is absolutely critical. And with that, I just want to thank everyone again, and I look forward to continuing this conversation.